What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Lounge DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande for Tuesday's six-game DFS NBA main slate. James, you were the man with the playbook today. A lot of big names are not playing tonight. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty good. Like you said, there are a lot of injuries. We got random injury news that we kind of talked about on the podcast that popped up, such as LeBron. Like, the Lakers just don't know what they're doing. They're just, playing guys when they feel like, not playing guys when they feel like.
Right.
But, I mean, it's a pretty nice little slate. In terms of injury news, we have LeBron out, Giannis out, Joel Embiid out, DeMarcus Cousins out, Jeff Teague, Derrick Rose, both out for Minnesota. Cody Zeller is out. Alan Crabb is out. Andre Iguodala is probable. Josh Hart is questionable. Iman Shumpert is out. We just got word that the Pacers posted their injury report on NBA.com, and Darren Collison is now doubtful. So that was the latest piece of news we've got, that Collison is doubtful. So we do have to kind of
more value.
Yeah, take that into consideration. And when we move over to Vegas, I mean, we kind of mentioned on the podcast, we have a lot of high totals. 5 of the 6 games currently 220 or higher. Milwaukee, LA is currently the game with the biggest spread. It's 11.
Yep.
Even though there's no Giannis, no Malcolm Brogdon, the Lakers have no LeBron. So, obviously Vegas is wondering how they keep that close. In Milwaukee, the game with the biggest total is Brooklyn-Sacramento, 233, 3.5 point favorite for Sacramento. But not to be outdone, Houston-Atlanta, 232.5. Houston only 7.5 point favorites on the road. We kind of talked about it on the pod. Atlanta's been better.
Right.
I will just say been better lately at home with kind of the development that they've seen from Trae Young and John Collins specifically.
The game that I'm actually most interested in is actually the first game of the slate, Philadelphia,
right.
Charlotte. They have a 223 total. It was just a pick 'em like a minute ago when I looked at it. It's now Charlotte -1. They've played 3 times. 2 of those games went into overtime, and the other one was like a 2-point spread difference. So, they're looking at 223 total, but if they go into overtime again, I mean, then you're going to be looking at it north of that and more fantasy production. So I'm not predicting an overtime game, but kind of predicting potential overtime game coming here.
That's bold. It's bold cotton strategy. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. Yes. Yep. Thank you. Finally got there. Yep. We made it.
That didn't work for you. That didn't.
Yeah. No, I know. It started off. In my mind, it went
great. Better than you thought it was going to be. I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. Before we break it down position by position, get into your playbook here. All MLB products are on sale right now. It's freaking March Madness at Fantasy Line. We're crushing prices on all our products for the NCAA tournament. Knowledge is power, so come get some. With the MLB Playbook Pro, you get Jim Bowden's draft guide, the ultimate cheat sheet, plus 5,000 features and 35 seasonal and DFS tools, plus live chat every day. Go to fantasylounge.com/MLB season. Use promo code MADNESS to check out and get an additional 25% off. fantasylounge.com, promo code MADNESS. Get an additional 25% off the cost. Get the entire MLB package. Pretty good deal again. MLB season is like 2 weeks away. You said what? This week is the games over? In Asia or something like that.
5:35 tomorrow morning, Johnny boy. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna be awake, waking up 5:30, just to watch some baseball. I want to watch Ichiro. To be honest,
it's true. You think he retires after the series?
I do. They've purchased his contract for this series.
Right.
So I think it's a send away. And if anything, something that's always been true about Ichiro, when he wants to pull a ball and pull it out of the park, he's always had that that power to do so. And
you think he still has it at 185 years old?
Nothing would shock me, just considering where he's playing.
Yeah.
To just see it maybe one more time.
Do you think they give him one of those old, hey, it's your final All-Star game, here's a 70-mile-an-hour fastball?
I hope. I really want it to happen.
Right. Pitchers are known to do that. Just throw a little meatball out there to let him homer. So,
he's a batting practice legend. So, hey, how about throwing one for, hey, Ichiro, I know where this counts and everything, but hey, here you go, man. This is This is your send-off.
All right. It's not going to impact Seattle. They're going to finish last. So what does it matter? All right. Let's jump into your playbook. Start off at the point guard position here. We have no DeMarcus Cousins in today's lineup. We thought maybe there'd be no Durant, but Durant is back. But you still have Steph Curry in your playbook. He's one of the top price plays over on FanDuel. Him and Ben Simmons at the top there. We'll throw Kemba Walker in that conversation as well, something that I'm pretty high on tonight. Where are you going with the top 3 guards here?
So I think Curry and Simmons are players I'd use for all formats. Now, obviously, with the Collison news, that changes some things. We have Tyus Jones, so you could, there's a lot of different ways you could approach this point guard position. I think you could play Curry in all formats. He's averaged 59 fantasy points against them, and he's been the primary beneficiary of DeMarcus Cousins being off the floor for this Golden State team. So I think Curry, you can play all formats. Simmons, we know, has triple-double upside. We know there's more upside almost with Embiid off the floor. I mean, there's just more rebounds to go around. There's more shots to go around. So I think you can play him all formats. I like Kemba. I like him more for tournaments, considering Philly's second against point guards this year.
Hasn't impacted him at all, though.
It has not. And I'm not disputing that, and I'm not saying don't play him. I just think, like, in a cash game, I'd prefer Curry and Simmons.
Yep.
I think Walker is way more volatile than them. And no, he hasn't been volatile against Philly this year, but he's been volatile as a whole way more than Curry and Simmons has. So that's just kind of how I'm breaking them down. Just Curry, Simmons, you can play in any format. Kemba, in elite tournament play, secondary cash play.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, again, I like those guys all. I like, especially Simmons over on DraftKings, we get the, it's only an extra couple points, but you get the boost for the double-doubles and triple-doubles, and we know he brings that to the table. If we're looking at your mid-tier here, I see Trae Young, I see Spencer Dinwiddie, 2 guys, again, that I agree with you. Young went off and I think he had, 40 actual points? Did I see that correctly, or close to it, against Houston the last time they played one another? So always a tournament play. And then Dinwiddie, as we talked about on the podcast of the day, he gets on the floor and just firing up shots. Had a horrible shooting day the other day. It was like 2 for 16, I think we said, but 16 shots under the key in on here. De'Aaron Fox defense, one of the worst in the NBA at the point guard position. So I'm a big fan of the 2 guys you have as your mid-tier plays here.
Yeah, and I have Eric Bledsoe written up at the top of the playbook. And I had him there prior to the Giannis news, like, being official. So I just kept him there, and I just changed up the words. My original word said elite play if Giannis was out, and I just changed it to elite play with Giannis out, because he is. And I think something that I tend to say is let the slate dictate who we play. And just, I think even though this game has potential blowout, like, written all over it, it really does. I think, like, Bledsoe and Middleton are just such good plays. And I don't think Milwaukee is a fantastic team without Giannis. Like, Giannis is that good, makes him that much better. They're also down Malcolm Brogdon, who is really good on both ends of the floor.
Bledsoe went for 53 DraftKings points in the first meeting against the Lakers as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's also another thing to sort of, take into consideration, just absolutely dominated them. And again, another strong mid-tier play. Of Trae Young, Spencer Dinwiddie, do you lean one way or the other?
I think Young probably, just because we've seen, I mean, yes, the absolute ceiling game came in that, like, insane overtime game against the Bulls. So I'm not going to, say that's, like, a ceiling I expect, because I don't ever expect another 4 overtime game, at least. I mean, we can see it, but it's so rare to actually happen. But he has gone for 60 on multiple occasions this year. If you need the savings, you go Dinwiddie. If you have the money to get up to Young, I don't think anyone's going to play him at $7,200. So I would lean Young, but if you don't have the money, I have literally no problem going down to Dinwiddie either.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's hit up some of the value that you have here. Obviously, you have Caruso written up top. You also have Rondo written up top. No LBJ here. Tyus Jones, knowing that there's no Teague and Rose are ruled out. You have Gilgeous-Alexander, and then also with the Collison news now, Corey Joseph has to be. Curtis Joseph was the old Toronto Maple Leafs goalie a long time ago. Corey Joseph is now very much in play. He's actually the cheapest of all of them. He's $3,300 on DraftKings, $3,600 on FanDuel. Joseph is. What's your thoughts now? Does the Collison news swing anything for you?
So it did more on FanDuel. DraftKings, I don't know because like Joseph is not a high octane player when he gets on the floor. He's not a high usage player. He could go in there, just dribble around and run the offense, but then the offense runs through like Bojan or Miles Turner, and he doesn't really get any of the stats. So I think he's fine on FanDuel from the point is you're getting a lot of savings at min salary, and you can drop his score if he sucks. DraftKings, Tyus is going to be, I think he should be the chalk. I think Gilgeous-Alexander comes in a really good form, playing 30 minutes a night basically in the last three, and some exposure to late night hammer, which I would have liked to have last night. Caruso again. Throughout the day I've grown less fond of the Lakers. I guess Caruso would make sense in a blowout, and he makes sense anyway because he's playing 27 plus minutes. But if you look at his last two games, like last game, to get to where he had 5 steals and 3 blocks. He had 4 blocks coming into that game for the whole season. One of them came the game before where he had a block and 2 steals. So like, how trustworthy is that? I mean, maybe an extended run, he is someone who can get some steals and get some blocks, but I don't know how reliable that is. So I think those stats are way too inflated. So I'd prefer like Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyus Jones, Corey Joseph. I like more on FanDuel than I like on DraftKings.
Looking up Joseph's usage and production here,
it's ugly.
Assuming we take off Carlson, who's not doubtful to play, not officially ruled out, but doubtful, and we don't know how much Tyreke Evans is going to play, if he's going to start or whatnot. So if we take Evans and Carlson off the floor, he's actually averaging just under a fantasy point per minute. 16% usage rate isn't like the greatest, obviously, but the fantasy point per minute's encouraging if we're getting a guy playing 30 minutes at 3,300, right?
Yeah, that's very encouraging. That's very, very encouraging. And I mean, that's kind of, it's like
it's a large sample size too. It's 460 minutes this year because obviously he plays second unit a lot. So, Sabonis obviously leads the way here. Fantasy point per minute wise, 1.3 per usage rate, 26%. Because again, he's used to playing with Collison off the floor as it is. So, that's where he usually thrives with his production. But Joseph, not as bad as I kind of agreed with you. With Evans on the floor, it's only a 0.86 fantasy points per minute. So still not the worst. Like he's still just a notch under their fantasy point per minute wise. Over at shooting guard tonight, you have Jimmy Butler. You have James Harden obviously at the top there against Atlanta. No Chris Paul against Atlanta in your playbook against that really great matchup against Trae Young. But you do have Harden here against Atlanta. Equally as good matchup. He's also like the only real high-priced guy on the slate. Like, yes, we'll get to Towns, I assume. In terms of actual pricing-wise, though, with LeBron out, with why am I missing Giannis out? It's Butler at the top here. I mean, it's Harden at the top here.
So I actually split up Trae Young's right up for Chris Paul and Trae Young. So he's in. It's just equal. You
inceptioned the playbook.
Yeah, I did. There's a play within the play.
Okay.
So I do have Chris Paul, and I do like that matchup for everyone on Houston, just because it's a pace-up spot, and Atlanta's terrible defensively. So, like, it's just a +1 for everyone in Houston. And that's kind of where, like, my thinking with Harden goes. Like, yes, he stunk last game, and yes, there is the potential for Chris Paul to always impact him. But there are nights where it doesn't matter, kind of, and James Harden just becomes James Harden. He just becomes a superhero, essentially. And if there's ever a spot to do so, it's in a pace-up spot when you're only 3.5 games back from the top spot in the West. You're 9-1. You're going against the team ranked 30th against point guards and 30th against shooting guards, right. The two positions that Harden's going to play throughout the game. Because when Paul comes off the floor, Harden kind of shifts over to that point guard role. So I'm not telling you not to play him, and I kind of figured his ownership was going to be pretty high with like. People just want to play stars. Yeah. And we see it every night. Like, people are just like, Giannis, LeBron. Like, they're clicking their keyboards as hard as they possibly can to get these guys into their lineups. So I kind of expect the ownership to go to Harden. I get it if you want to play him in cash. Am I doing it? As of right now, no. But I get it. I think Butler is a stronger cash game play, at least on DraftKings, where you save like $3,000, and he's coming off, back-to-back 40-point games. He actually leads the team in usage rate with Joel Embiid off the floor. And now we have a big sample with Tobias Harris. It's like a 400-minute sample. And he still has the higher usage rate over Harris. And I think Harris is a great play too, but I think he's just settled in as that, like, all right, Embiid's off the floor, I have to take on a bigger role. So I like Butler 7,100 a lot if you're pivoting off of Harden at the top.
Yeah, I like Butler as well here. So you mentioned the back-to-back 40-point games. And you mentioned, I've always been a Harris guy in that big grouping that they've added anyways. And he's done really well against Charlotte. But I'm a big fan of Butler. I have him in some lineups that I was building earlier. If we go towards the mid-tier, I mean, Chris Middleton obviously shoots to everybody's mind. I assume he's going to be one of the highest on plays of the slate. We love attacking the Lakers at the shooting guard position as it is. Giannis means the production and the usage rate goes up there. It's really just him and Bledsoe are the show in Milwaukee when he's off the floor. So I think everybody's clearly there. But, I mean, you got to have Jeremy Lamb playing really well off the bench. You have Andrew Wiggins, against Golden State. What else are you looking at here at this shooting guard spot?
I mean, I think Wiggins has to kind of peak interest here because if they don't, he needs to shoot well and score to keep this game close without Teague. I mean, 2 of their top 4 scorers in Teague and Rose are off the floor. So how are they going to compete with Golden State? And it's only a 6.5-point spread, which makes me believe Vegas believes in Andrew Wiggins, I guess.
Right. I think they believe in Towns for sure.
Oh, right, of course. But it also unless Towns goes for 60 actual points, there's gonna be other players that have to do something, especially when you're considering almost a 230 game total here. And so you're basically saying that the Wolves are going to score almost 210, 250, 11, 12 points.
Yeah.
So I like Wiggins for tournaments. You said Middleton, he's going to be the top 4 chalky play, top 3 chalky play on the slate. Other than that, I don't love Buddy Hield for tournaments. I think is fine. I don't trust him in cash. I think you could play Lou Williams in the tournament. Jeremy Lamb, you said, in tournaments is fine. I don't I'm wondering who gets the Jimmy Butler defense compared to the JJ Redick defense. And when you look at the numbers,
I think Batum is the one that's going to be on Butler.
Yeah, and it looks like Batum he's averaged 19 fantasy points in 3 meetings against the Sixers this year. So it looks like he's been the one to unfortunately get the Butler assignment.
But you also have to remember that those games are earlier in the year before Lamb went to the bench, and that's where where we weren't really seeing good Batum production either.
It's also true. You're right, but it's still not something to make me want to play Lamb in cash. I still want to just play him in tournaments. That really piques my interest for shooting guard. I guess Eric Gordon, because he's going to play tonight. Maybe they just abuse him. So it's weird how the position discrepancy is for Karis LeVert, because he's a shooting guard on FanDuel and he's point guard, small forward on DraftKings. I really like Karis LeVert tonight. I really like the fact that he's playing minutes, 26 and 31 minutes, and I don't think that's a coincidence since Allen Crabbe has gone down. And this is a guy we saw earlier that we really, really liked. He got up to nearly 8K at one point. I'm putting a lot of stock in Karis LeVert tonight, to be perfectly honest with you, especially at a bad mid-tier kind of shooting guard position. And then Pat Connaughton, I'll just throw his name out there because we don't know the Milwaukee starting lineup. I don't think it's come out in the last 10 minutes, but I do think Pat Connaughton makes sense for them.
Did you throw out Caldwell Pope? He's the guy that I think is interesting.
No,
I know you're down the Lakers as a whole today, and I get that. I just look at the fact that they need bodies at least to play.
Right.
He played 30 minutes against Detroit in a game that LeBron didn't play in the other day. So, and he's played, 28, 30, 22, and 31 minutes in the last 4 games here. So, I still think, given the depth that they have, he's a guy that could go ahead and play. And he's cheap. He's only 3,900 on DraftKings, where you get that little bonus for 3-point shots. And then on FanDuel, he's a 3-and-D guy. He's 4,200, and if he gets a couple steals and he's giving you 3 points, a steal as well. So I'm just going to throw him out there again. I know you're not high on the Lakers. We kind of had that conversation before we jumped on air tonight, but he's a guy that at least I think is worth some conversation.
Yeah, tournaments, strictly a tournament play, but if your builds bring you to KCP or any other Lakers, like I'm not going to say you're wrong. I just personally, it's not doing it for me.
A guy that I've just been racking my brain trying to figure out how to fit into my lineups today is in Kevin Durant. I know you mentioned that, Steph Curry has such great numbers here against Minnesota. Durant isn't too far behind. He's averaging 48 fantasy points against them this year. Under $9,000 on DraftKings seems like an absolute crime. We're getting him without Boogie Cousins tonight, and we have absolutely made money this year attacking Minnesota with opposing small forwards. I said, like, from Gordon Hayward to Luke Kennard to you name it, guys all over the slate have just been burning Minnesota at the small forward position. On FanDuel, he's projected to be over almost 50% owned tonight because of the positional depth there.
Right.
For me, again, I've been trying to figure out how to best stack my lineups with Durant as the focal point of it.
Yeah, seeing that, I mean, it's something that we've kind of been talking about recently, right? Every time, like, Paul George has been on the slate or, whoever the top small forward is, they've been getting and garnering a ton of ownership because the position just is not good more often than not. And I kind of feel like we're in the same situation again. Like, They're forcing our hand. We're being forced to play Kevin Durant. And that's fine because he's a really good play. Under 9K and then 9,500, I think he's not flashing the upside, but it's Kevin freaking Durant. Like, this isn't just like Joe Schmo that was good a couple games. Like, Kevin Durant is a former MVP. He's won a finals MVP. Like, I mean, so 9,500, I'm not really scared away by, especially if you're telling me he's going to be 50% owned. And that's just in tournaments. If he's 50% owned in tournaments, what is he going to be owned in cash game? What is he going to be owned in cash games? So FanDuel, like, I'm prioritizing more in cash games on FanDuel. And it's the same thing I said about Paul George a couple slates ago.
Yep.
And then tournaments for me on DraftKings. But I will also not fault you for playing him cash on DraftKings because he's under 9K, like you said. So.
Yeah. Another guy that you and I are big fans of, and I think the Collison news may shift this as well, but we're all about Bojan. He absolutely obliterated them, the Clippers, in that first meeting too as well. 46 fantasy points against them in that game. You had a name for him on the podcast the other day. It was like something automatic or something like that. Konstantinovic, yeah. So I mean, like, just absolute money for us all season long. Under 6K on DraftKings for whatever reason. I know this is a back-to-back, and they did just play a tough game against Portland last night. He only played 28 minutes in that game, though, so it's not like they really ran him into the ground. So I think he's pretty safe tonight in a matchup that he's already had success in.
And do you see his yes, granted, this was like kind of prior to the Darren Collison news, but have you seen his projected ownership?
I have not peeked it. No, is it high?
It is 2% on FanDuel and 0.9% on DraftKings. So under 3% on both sites. So
seems low.
I think that number is one that we should, attack. Yes, yeah. I think so.
I'll definitely agree with you there. What other what other small forwards are you looking at here?
So Nick Batum, we mentioned, he's going to play. I think the game against Miami said it all, basically, of where the Hornets are. They lose by 20. They were losing by 20 that entire game, and Batum played 35 minutes. So I think that's just kind of where they are as a team. They want to get into the playoffs. They're going to need a really good effort to beat Philly, who's obviously one of the top teams in the East. So I think Batum's fine. I think DeMarre Carroll's a sneaky play tonight, and he's seen his minutes increase again with the Allen Crabbe news. He's shifted into the backup small forward, backup power forward role, and he's, Karuk's minutes are gone, Trevion Graham's minutes are gone, and it's been Carroll, LeVert getting the minutes, and Joe Harris. They're rotating shooting guard through small forward or through power forward. They're just playing all the minutes right there, 28 to 30. I think DeMarre Carroll could be really sneaky for tournaments. Daniel House, we've talked about pretty extensively on the podcast.
Probably a little bit too long for Daniel House on the podcast, but I mean,
I mean, it's worth it because people don't know who he is. Because, even if you got into DFS basketball late this year, you probably didn't know who Daniel House was because he spent a month or two in the G League just because of organizational stupidity, honestly.
They wanted to keep James Ennis around. So
yeah, right. It makes total sense. And then, you know what? Let's just get rid of James Ennis anyway and ship him off. So I think Daniel House could be a really intriguing play. We don't have him very high ownership. And then Taurean Prince, another guy who I don't think anyone's going to play, has been pretty consistent lately. And I think this up-tempo matchup for both teams just has potential. Like, I think there's 10 guys that have really good pop-off potential from, both teams. Do I love, the idea of, stacking it? No, but it is a sneaky game stack just considering how high-powered the Houston offense is and how fast of a pace that Atlanta plays at. Like, this could easily turn into a 230, 240 by the end of the night.
Yep, I agree with you there. Any other small forwards?
No, not really. I mean, I mentioned Karis LeVert and JJ Redick. I'll just throw JJ Redick out there. I think he's like a safe floor, no Embiid. They should space the floor. And the ball won't stop as much with Embiid gone. The ball won't go into the post and just die.
Right. There's no Embiid ratio that needs to be met on the slate where they have to throw it into him, which is kind of good because this is a matchup that we typically just absolutely target with all bigs. They just crush Charlotte. So as we move to power forward here, I know he's not the highest priced player and he's not the highest priced player in your playbook, but I'm a big fan of Tobias Harris. I talked about it when you mentioned Jimmy Butler, and Harris on the year is averaging over 40 fantasy points in 2 meetings against Charlotte this season. And I don't think Marvin Williams is really going to have much to deal with if they go Frank Kaminsky or Biyombo. To me, I think Harris is just in a really, really strong spot here against Charlotte. He is $7,200 over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's $7,600. And as we mentioned, this is almost a pick'em game. There's already been 2 overtime games this year between these two teams. If we're talking another third overtime potential, as I sort of alluded to, I mean, I feel like it's a game stack that people should be looking into tonight. And Harris is one of the top players, I think, in the matchup.
If this game goes into overtime, we're going to have to talk about, what lottery numbers that I'm going to be playing tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Harris is a really strong play. The price tag is really low considering we saw him near 8K and over 8K for a lot of the first month he's been with the team. Averages over a fantasy point per minute, and obviously the production has kind of shifted to Butler and Simmons, but it's been Embiid. Again, Embiid leaves a large, just everything, not just usage rate, but rebounds. He's a guy who protects the rim. Now they're going to need a little more help at the rim. There's potential for Harris to do a lot more tonight with Embiid. So I'm with you. I think a pivot in the tournament, again, going back to the Atlanta-Houston game, is John Collins, who's been nothing short of great outside of the last game that he played, which he fouled out. And, Nikola Vucevic can get a lot of people in foul trouble. So, it happens. I don't necessarily see that happening with Clint Capella or
Capella, Freed, Tucker.
Right. That's not really scary in terms of
scary. Harden going to
that is frightening. I definitely am with you there. So he did only pick up 1 foul in that first meeting. 20 and 12 in the first meeting, 1 foul. He played 32 minutes. Take that for what it's worth, because you're right. Harden draws contact that might not even actually be there.
He's taking more free throws. He had a stat where he's taking more free throws and 3-pointers than anybody in the NBA over the last X amount of years. I think there's a recent stat, something like that, which is pretty insane. But yeah, for sure.
So Collins, Harris I think they're pretty clearly the top 2 options at power forward.
I talked a lot about Kyle Kuzma with you right before we jumped on air. I know we had a little bit of a disagreement, I guess, on how we feel. Not necessarily how this game's going to go. We're both convinced that Milwaukee is going to win this game. The difference is our opinions on whether or not Kuzma is going to be a guy that plays minutes regardless. In terms of box score watching without paying attention to the actual flow of the game, you look at the recent games that Kuzma's played in. He's played 33, 38, 31, and 34 minutes the last 4 games. And in 4 of those games, his team lost by 10 plus points. So to me, it seems like he's playing regardless. Again, I could go look at the game flow, and maybe they pulled away late in the fourth quarter, and that's how the league got up to where it was. But we have no LeBron tonight. They really have nobody else. Like, it's Kyle Kuzma is the main, talented player, I guess we'll say, not to knock everybody else, but like the featured talent of the Lakers starting five, I think tonight would be Kyle Kuzma. So at the very least, when he's on the floor, I think the ball is going to be worked to him. And for me, that's why I have him in my lineups. He's also $5,900 on DraftKings, which I think is very cheap. On FanDuel, what is he priced at? Like 64, 65?
65, yeah.
And so for me, I like Kyle Kuzma tonight, regardless of sort of game theory. You had a little bit of a different take. You thought maybe if they do blow out, they throw in Jonathan Williams. What else are you sort of opinions on Kuzma here? Is he just a GPP play for you? What's your take?
I'm not playing the Lakers in cash. None. 0 Lakers in cash. And I'm not saying I don't like Kuzma. The development is clear. Like, the last 2 games, he has 18 assists. That's not something that we've seen from him ever. We're not seeing him as like a primary playmaker unless he's shooting the ball. Like, now he's doing both. It just worries me. The Lakers are just so unpredictable right now, and we've been talking about it kind of a lot about attacking teams that, are going to have come out and said they're going to play their guys that are in a playoff spot, are like the Cavs and guys that we can trust. Like, you mentioned, like, you brought up the Cavs, but the Cavs have been doing that all year where they're just letting their guys play. The Lakers are just an unknown. Like, one night they play one guy 30 minutes, like JaVale McGee. Then the next they don't. Caldwell Pope plays 30 minutes one night, then he plays 20 the next.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference for me between, like, the Lakers and the Cavs, or the Lakers and, like, the Hawks, who they're just letting their players go. The Lakers are just kind of, maybe we should let them develop. Maybe we should get some other guys in.
But do you feel like that's been the case with Kuzma when he's been on the floor, though? Like,
no.
At center, they never really had an answer at center all season long. They haven't really had a guy at shooting guard all season long, aside from Ingram when they wanted to play him there. And then they would let Ingram play 36 minutes a night, regardless of really what was going on. I just feel like Kuzma's a guy that they're willing to just run out there, because it's not as if they're trying to get a young guy some extra run behind him. Like, unless they trade him, like, he is their power forward of the present and future, until LeBron decides he needs, Kawhi Leonard in here or something, and they ship him off. So that's, again, just my opinion. You could be 100% right. They could get down by 20 in the third, and they're like, all right, Kyle, you just came off like an ankle sprain. We'll just rest you, and we'll see what else we have on the back end of our roster. But again, I'm just sort of looking at the minutes he's always played, regardless of score here.
Right.
And it's seemingly always been around 30 minutes a night plus. So,
I mean, look, I'm not telling anyone not to play him, especially in a tournament. I wouldn't play him in a cash game. I think that's pushing it. Maybe because the price, like, you're okay with it. If this game stays close, Kuzma's going to be a primary reason why. I mean, they don't really have any other scores. So if you want to play it from that theory, because you want this game to stay close, because you want Middleton and Bledsoe to get as many minutes as they can. So from that point, you want Kuzma to do well. So maybe you do stack, like, Bledsoe, Middleton, Kuzma, and maybe throw, like, a Caruso in there, or KCP, or whatever other Laker you want.
Sure.
But that makes more sense for me for tournaments than it would for a cash game.
All right. Any other power forwards you're looking at here?
Yeah, I like Niko Mirotic. Projections, ownership likes him a lot. I mean, he started last game, but it's a really good matchup, whether he plays small forward, whether he plays power forward. The Lakers don't really have an answer for either. They don't really have an answer anywhere defensively, at least.
They're starting Muscala, or at least they did last time.
No, they've already announced it. They're starting Muscala at power forward. So, like, what is he gonna really do? Is he scary defensively? No. We touted. Think about all the times we touted attacking Philly, against Philadelphia. Yeah. So Mirotic is a proven scorer when he gets the run. I also think you could throw Ersan in there. Min salary on FanDuel, I think it's more of a FanDuel play because you can drop his score at $3,500. But, I mean, you mentioned it. He started a lot when Giannis hasn't played this year.
And he's been okay.
He's been okay. He has been okay.
He's, like, one of the more, like, reliable, I feel like, players. Like, when he gets you on the floor, he's going to give you, like, 12 and 5.
Yep.
And, like, maybe he'll get you a blocker steal and he gets you to 20 and you walk away. So, that's fine. You have Marvin Williams listed as well. Again, I think for game stacks, he works. Kaminsky played 30 minutes the other night. They didn't play Hernangomez at all. So, I mean, if Kaminsky's playing sort of the stretch big, that's sort of an interesting spot for him. Again, I think that there's a chance that he's worth a look for sure. And then on FanDuel, Amir Johnson is listed as a power forward, but he's been announced as the starter tonight for the 76ers. It's not Boban as we thought. And it was just like 3 weeks ago, it seemed like, when they were starting Amir Johnson. He put up, a couple 20 fantasy point games against Orlando, against Chicago. If he plays another 20 minutes tonight against a really bad Charlotte front court, any interest in Amir Johnson here?
I knew this was going to happen because you said it. Like, they killed him. They killed Boban playing him. They can't play him. Minutes.
They just can't play him any more than like 15 minutes.
So I guess Amir makes sense on FanDuel if you want to play him as like a drop.
Yeah.
It's the same as like playing Ersan. So I think they're both like in the same category. You play them if they do well, great. If not, you could drop them. But they're both gonna play 20 minutes a game, like realistically. I still think I think this is probably a good segue to just move on to center because we're talking about Boban. So I still think he's in play for DraftKings because we're not looking for 27 minutes out of Boban. No. We're literally looking for 20 minutes at 4-1. He's a fantasy point per minute god.
Sure.
So he's gonna play. It just we don't know if it's gonna he's gonna play. And I think because it's Charlotte front court, whether it's Kaminsky or Bismack, I don't think it matters. Like in the 20 minutes that he's gonna play, or 17 or 18 and 19 minutes he's gonna play, he's going to smash.
He should.
And I still think I know it's crazy, but again, let the slate dictate who we play. I think I'm still playing Boban and cash on DraftKings.
I do. So since we are really cash games, huh? You won't play Anthony Davis at 20 minutes, but you'll play Boban at 12.
There is a significant difference though, because
I mean, technically,
Anthony Davis'
look at fantasy point per minute production, they're the same guy. And he's not playing.
But he's $3,000. But he's $3,000 less.
On DraftKings, sure, but not on FanDuel.
I'm not. I never even was considering him if he was starting on FanDuel. Like FanDuel, even if he was starting, I wasn't playing him. I'm not playing him at 6,800 when I can go up to Miles Turner. I can go down to Jared Allen at like kind of close price tags. Yeah. FanDuel was out of the question always. DraftKings though, $4,100. I mean, he could get a double in 10 minutes here against Charlotte. Like. That's the difference. He's only 41. Like if Anthony Davis was 4,100, he'd be a cash. I'd play him every single night.
Every night, yeah. No,
I play him every night.
I hear you. Let's talk about some of the other centers you have here. Obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns at the top. This should be a matchup that he smashes. It really should. He is going to go up against Bogut though, who was already just got announced as the starter tonight. He played 19 minutes last night. So we'll talk about Towns first, and then we need your take on: are we playing Andrew Bogut at 19 or 20 minutes tonight at min price?
So Towns at 9,700 is insane. I think we have to attack that price. I think you can play him in any format you want. Do I think he's a must? No, like for cash, but I think he's a must in if you're building multiple lineups. Like if you're building multiple lineups, have a Karl-Anthony Towns lineup.
Sure.
Especially if that game's going to stay close. Again, which Vegas predicts. So what's to say? Like, why wouldn't we play the best player from the team that's projected to keep this close? Andrew Bogut is very interesting, and he's probably a guy that also another guy we spent too long talking about the last two podcasts. Because 2 podcasts ago we spent like half an hour talking about it.
We theorized about his production, but then he fulfilled the production.
We talked that into existence, Sean. I'm telling you. They heard it. They heard us talk about him for 25 minutes.
Got us 19 DraftKings points. He was there. So
I think I'm like, if there was a guy that I'm willing to take a shot on 20 minutes again, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's Bogut. Maybe you do Bogut over Boban. Because it's 30 minutes or $3,000.
Right.
For a guy who's starting and is going to give me 20 minutes. He got 18. What happens if he gets 18 at 3,000 and Boban, who could get us 18 in 3 minutes, but at 4,100 we win with Bogut.
Sure. No, I agree.
And we know Towns is the best defender either. So
no, he's terrible. He's terrible defensively. Other guys you have on here, you have Capella, Miles Turner, who's the guy that I'm really high on tonight. Again, coming off a really strong performance last night, 45 fantasy points. Gets the best center matchup right now going in DFS against the Clippers, who we just saw again, like Robin Lopez of all people, tear up for 50. So, thoughts on the wrap it up here on the center spot.
I think Capella again is a play because I don't think he's going to be very highly owned. And second, it's a play against one of the worst defensive teams in a high-paced game. Miles Turner is one of the best center spends. He's one of the best per dollar plays, at least on DraftKings. 6,200 is ridiculous. He had a season-high 28 points last night, coming off a double-double. So I think he's an elite play. And then it's just kind of a bunch of, like, mush. Jared Allen's fine, I think. But there's no other value. Boban and Bogut are probably the value plays. Like Zubac starts, doesn't play any minutes anymore. So that's really it for me at the center position. We can't trust Dedmon. I think I would rather play Alex Len in a tournament than Dedmon, to be honest. Just because we're seeing 40, like every other game, Alex Len plays like 23 minutes and puts up like a monster. Like this has always been the thing about Alex Len. Like he has the potential to do it. He just doesn't do it consistently. And that's always been the frustrating part. So I think he could be a potential play as well, but in a mass entry like GPP tournament, like 40,000 entries or more, you throw Alex Len in like 1 out of 15 lineups.
All right. You're building your lineups tonight. Who's the first guy in it?
Tyus Jones, because of salary, and then if you want like a expensive guy, Steph Curry.
All right, guys, we have 20 minutes to roster lock. Get your questions in. Everything's out there. Starting 5 videos coming out right now as well, so be on the lookout for that. Good luck, everybody.
Later, guys.